There is so much trash information on the internet these days. There's so much misinformation and so many false ideas out there that sometimes it's hard to decipher the good from the bad. Sometimes it's hard to decipher mythology from reality. Welcome to First Responder Fitness with Carl Wimmer, where armor is forged through mental, spiritual, and physical preparation. Welcome to First Responder Fitness with Carl Wimmer, my friends. I am Carl Wimmer, your host, and I am so grateful that you have joined us today on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. What a great day. What a great week to reset and to refocus on your goals. And I just encourage you to do that. With that being said, we just released month 2 of our healthy habits, our Habits to Healthy in 1 Year program. Again, this is a program that is free to you. You just simply listen to the podcast and follow along with the habits that we give you each and every month. This is so critical because we are now into February. And statistically speaking, if you made New Year's resolutions for the year 2025, most of you have already failed. As a matter of fact, most of you failed a couple weeks ago. You did not continue with your New Year's resolutions. We have put together a program that makes it so that it is almost foolproof. Why? Because we're putting together small micro habits that you develop each month, that you add to your lifestyle each month. And if you just simply follow along with us, by the end of a year, no matter when you join this, you could join this in the middle of June or July, you could join this whenever. But if you follow along for an entire year, you will have implemented 12 to 15 new habits that have become a part of a lifestyle that will change your metabolic health, will change your fitness, will change the way you look on the beach. So excited. And so I just encourage you to, in addition to the episodes that we release every Monday, that you go back to the YouTube channel, to the Spotify channel, and find the Habits to Healthy videos and podcasts that we have done so that you can get caught up to speed on where we're at. In addition, the link tree, which is on every one of our social media platforms, whether it be Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, what have you, if you click on our link tree, it will take you to free downloadable PDFs, which give more detail about each month and each of the habits that you develop each month. So I highly encourage you to do that. In addition, in the link tree are links to products that we recommend here at First Responder Fitness. So I highly recommend that you go to our link tree, download the PDFs, and pick up some products that might assist you in your Habits to Healthy program this year. Well, I am excited to bring you this episode of First Responder Fitness. It's an episode that is a long time coming because, frankly, there is so much trash information on the internet these days. There's so much misinformation and so many false ideas out there that sometimes it's hard to decipher the good from the bad. Sometimes it's hard to decipher mythology from reality. And so today I'm going to do my best to list for you 5 myths in the fitness and nutrition world that need to die. They just need to go away. These are not necessarily the top 5 because there's so many out there. I could make a top 20 list, but this is definitely 5 myths in the nutrition and fitness industry that need to go away, that need to die. And, you know, it's interesting because most of them won't. The reason they won't is because people get sucked into these concepts and these ideas and these structures, this mythology within the fitness and nutrition industry, and they buy into it. People don't want to be wrong. People are programmed to believe what they want to believe and then to seek out information that supports their false ideas, even if they're false. That is, it gets to the point where some of these fitness and nutritional ideas become a religion. And we'll get into some of those here in just a bit. But for now, let's get into the top 5 myths in the fitness and nutrition industry that need to die, beginning with number 5. The first one, number 5, is that cardio is the best way to lose weight. This is a myth that has that really gained legs in the early 1980s. The cardiovascular exercise alone is the best way to lose fat or lose weight. Now, I got to be very cautious with this one because I am a huge advocate for cardiovascular exercise. In fact, if there is nothing better at improving your heart, your lungs, your lung capacity, your VO2 max, then cardiovascular type exercise. Cardiovascular exercise is an absolute must. And here at First Responder Fitness, we are strong advocates of cardiovascular exercise. The problem comes when people say that if you want to lose fat, just go running. Just get on the treadmill for a few hours. It's the best way to burn fat. That's simply not true. The truth is that while cardiovascular exercise, cardio, does help burn calories, strength training and nutrition are the key drivers to fat loss. Without question, if you want to lose weight, if you want to lose fat, if you want to recomposition your body, we call that recomping in the industry. If you want to gain muscle and lose fat and look good on the beach or at the swimming pool, that happens in the kitchen. First and foremost, above everything else. Everything else. You could, if you were to make a list of the top 3 things that are most critical to losing fat and looking, I'll just say looking good in your swimming suit, okay? So losing fat and recomping your body. Number 1 is nutrition. Number 2 is nutrition, and number 3 is nutrition. There is nothing more important than making sure that you're eating good, wholesome, single ingredient foods, and 2, that you're in a calorie deficit. You will not lose fat unless you're in a calorie deficit. You cannot physically, physiologically, you cannot lose weight unless you're in a calorie deficit. We know that without question. It is one of the immutable laws of being a human being, of living in this universe. One of the scientific laws, a few of the scientific laws, are the laws of thermodynamics. It's the laws that govern energy. And food consumption and calories are just a way we measure the energy that you consume. And if you are consuming more energy than you are exerting, you will store that energy as fat. By the same token, if you are in a calorie deficit, and this is a hard truth for people to understand, but if you are in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. You will lose fat. And if you're not losing fat, you're not in a calorie deficit. That's as black and white as you can possibly get it. You can track your food. You can use one of these super awesome fitness tracker watches like I have. You can monitor what you're eating. And if you're not losing fat, you're not in a calorie deficit. And that is just a fact. And so what is the most likely? You think about what is most likely. If you think you're in a calorie deficit, but you're not losing fat, what is most likely? That you're miscalculating how much you're eating, that you're miscalculating how much you're burning, or that you're not a human. Think about that. That's the beauty of this, is that a calorie deficit is how you lose fat, period. So what about cardiovascular exercise? Yes, it's great because it strengthens your lungs, it strengthens your heart, strengthens your overall body. It makes you healthier, and it does contribute to a calorie deficit, which will contribute to fat loss. But how many people, let's just look at the average person that you know. Think of a person who focuses heavily, in fact, only focuses on distant running. Like they are a distance runner. They love running. That's what they do. Now, this person is likely very healthy. But does that person have a large amount of muscle? In most cases, no. In fact, you probably know somebody who focuses solely on distance running or cardiovascular exercise, and they would be what you would consider skinny, but overall their fat percentage for their body weight is probably still fairly high. We call this skinny fat. This is a person who is skinny, probably metabolically healthy, but they still have a high percentage of body fat in comparison to muscle. That is the downside to only focusing on cardiovascular exercise. You need to be well-rounded. Nutrition, weight training, and cardiovascular exercise is the best way to lose weight. That is the truth. A meta-analysis in obesity reviews found that combining strength training with proper nutrition results in greater fat loss while preserving muscle mass compared to cardio alone. Period. Strength training also boosts your resting metabolic rate. That is big. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, even when you're sitting in your lazy boy. A really muscular person burns more calories while at rest than someone who has less muscle. So you burn calories if you have, even at rest, if you're more muscular. Yeah, I mean, everybody burns calories at rest. But if you want to burn more, get more bang for your buck, lift weights and strength train. No question about it. Dr. Lane Norton, who's a PhD in nutritional science and is someone I highly respect in the industry, not only because he's very well educated, but he's also a competitive powerlifter. And being a retired world champion powerlifter, I consider all powerlifters, my brothers and sisters, of course. Well, he says this, quote, "The biggest misconception is that cardio is king for fat loss. Strength training and dietary changes are actually what drive long-term results." So the bottom line is, if you want long-term results when it comes to to weight loss, cardiovascular exercise, while it is important, is not the most important ingredient in fat loss and in weight loss. Number 4 in the myths that need to die is that there is one best diet for everyone. And I know this one's going to ruffle some feathers because there are disciples of every creed and kind when it comes to the diet industry. There are vegan diets. Don't eat meat. Vegan is all you need to be healthy. There is keto. There is paleo. There is carnivore. There is intermittent fasting. And each camp claims that their way is the best way or the only way. And if you want to talk about fitness and nutrition religiosity, that's where it's at. People have their prophets and their leaders in their various nutrition and diet world, in their particular denomination, the carnivore denomination, the paleo denomination, the intermittent fasting denomination of nutrition religion, and they listen to them. It's almost a worship in their life, and it is ridiculous. The truth is, no single diet is superior for every individual. And if your particular diet cuts out certain categories of food, it's a good indication that your diet is absolutely, positively not the best diet for a majority of people. Maybe it's the best one for you. Absolutely knock yourself out. But if your diet cuts out entire sections of food groups, it is absolutely not the best diet for a majority of people, based on their genetics, based on their lifestyle, and based on, most importantly, their ability to adhere to the diet. Now, I used to be a strong advocate of intermittent fasting. At the particular time in my life, I feared hunger so much that when I read about the diet, which is called the every other day diet, it just spoke to me as something easy that I could do. It did not require me to measure my food. It didn't require that I keep track of macros. It just said on one day, eat whatever you want, and on the next day, eat nothing. Easy. Easy for someone like me. It seemed like insanity to those around me, but to me, it was just something that I could do. And you know what? I had great results from that diet. I had great results because at the time I was focused mostly on losing weight, because I had fractured my spine, had suffered a spinal cord injury, in large part due to powerlifting, a couple car wrecks that I was in. And so I was no longer competing in powerlifting, but I was still weighing about 280 pounds. And I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to drop weight. And so the every other day diet helped me to do that. Now, was it some magic sauce like autophagy and the magic window of consuming my calories? No. It was the fact that I was in a calorie deficit. 2 days put together, overall 48 hour period of time, I was in a calorie deficit. Over a week's long period of time, I was in a calorie deficit. Over a month's period of time, I was in a calorie deficit. It had nothing to do with some mystical voodoo pseudoscience called autophagy. Now, autophagy is real, but the idol of autophagy that intermittent fasters worship at is based in pseudoscience. It's just not a reality the way that they frame the scientific truth with that is autophagy. It had to do with the fact that I was in a calorie deficit, period, end of story. And that is why I received benefit from it. And I was grateful. And I got to tell you, there was also negatives to it. I lost muscle mass on the every other day diet. My protein levels were not high enough. My protein consumption was not high enough. And I lost muscle mass while on the every other day diet. And that is that's the single biggest downside to intermittent fasting, because if you're an intermittent faster, you have a 6-hour window or an 8-hour window, or if you're the every other day diet, you have all day to cram in 2 days worth of protein. And for me, I'm trying to get 200 grams of protein per day. So I have to get 400 grams of protein in one day. Very hard to do. Or if I'm trying to cram in 200 grams of protein in a 6-hour window, then that means that I've got to basically be an intermittent fasting carnivore. Okay, maybe some of you, that will work. Maybe that will work for you. It will not work for me. Okay, so the fact is, you have to decide what is best for your lifestyle, your genetics, and whether you'll adhere to the diet or not. A study in Cell found that individuals have highly personalized glucose responses to the same foods, meaning that diets affect people differently. So just because you have found the fountain of youth diet for you, and just because you love this particular diet, doesn't mean it is for everybody. And so people just really need to hold off on their evangelistic attitudes when it comes to their diet, because just because it is the best one for you doesn't mean it's the best one for everybody. If you were to pin me down and say, is there a best diet out there for a majority of people, I would say yes. I think the Mediterranean style diet is probably as close as you can get to the best diet for a majority of people. Why? Because it stresses single ingredient whole foods. It stresses nutrient dense, lower calorie foods, and it just includes all the food groups. By far, if I were to pick a diet that says, okay, here's the plug-in diet for most people, the Mediterranean diet is probably the one that I would say is best for everybody. But there just simply isn't a best for everybody diet out there. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition concluded after a meta-analysis study that when calories and protein are equated, different diets yield similar results. That's it. Calories and protein. When those two things are equated, the results are the same in every single diet. It's just the truth. So, and let's not kid ourselves. Long-term success is based on sustainability, not fad diets. I have a funny story. My wife and I love to go on cruises. And so we're part of a couple of cruise pages on Facebook and social media. And there's this woman, and she's someone that I know, and so I was able to give her a little bit of grief. But she posted on there. She says, "Does this cruise line offer?" She says, "I'm keto. Does this cruise line offer keto options?" Well, of course it does, And I said, "Wait a second, when's your cruise?" And she says, "Well, it's in 13 months. It's a little. I'm planning ahead." Oh, okay. Well, I said, "Well, don't worry about it because you won't be keto in 13 months." and there's a lot of reality to what I said, even though I was just giving her grief. I was just joking with her. The truth is, that's just a reality. People don't stick to their fad diets very long, and odds are 13 months from the time she posted that, she probably wouldn't be keto. She'll be back on to the SAD diet, the standard American diet. Now, if there is one diet that I can say without question that is crap for everyone, it is the standard American diet that is high in processed garbage, high in sugar, high in simple carbohydrates, and way too low in protein. But that's another story. So to conclude this particular myth, I want to quote Dr. Tim Spector, who is a genetic epidemiologist. He says this: "There is no universal best diet. there's only the best diet for you. Number 3, the third myth that needs to die is this: you need to eat small meals every 2 to 3 hours. Have you ever heard that? That you need to eat small meals every 2 to 3 hours? That's kind of the opposite of intermittent fasting. That is the, you need to stay fed or you're going to go catabolic. And I have to tell you, I used to believe this. I used to believe that eating frequently keeps your metabolism stoked and prevents fat gain and prevents you from losing muscle. That's the one I was worried about. When I was world champion powerlifter, when I was competing at my pinnacle in powerlifting, I was so crazy about this particular myth that I would set my alarm for the middle of the night and get up and go to the fridge and chug some milk or down some protein of some sort that I would eat. Now, I was fat. Okay, yeah, I was strong as could be. I mean, natural, drug-tested, bench pressing near 600 pounds. And as a matter of fact, I did bench press 600 pounds in the gym. I just never got it in a competition. I got red lighted at 601 because of a small, I don't know, uneven lockout. But either way, bench pressing nearly 600 pounds, but I was fat. And but I insisted on eating every 2 to 3 hours because I didn't want to lose muscle. I didn't want to go catabolic. But more times than not, people say if you want to keep your metabolism stoked, keep it stoked, bro, you got to eat every 2 to 3 hours. The truth is your metabolism does not shut down if you don't eat every few hours. Meal frequency is largely a personal preference and a lifestyle fitting your lifestyle, not a requirement. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found no difference in metabolism between people who ate 6 meals a day versus 3 meals a day. Now, I think 3 meals a day is hard. I couldn't do it. Remember, the two most important things when it comes to muscle growth, when it comes to nutrition, is calorie intake. Okay, if you want to lose fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. If you want to gain muscle, you should probably be in a slight calorie surplus. And protein intake. You need at least 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. I shoot for 1 to 2 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass, so roughly the same. But I even shoot for a little more. So I'm shooting for that 200 grams of protein per day. If I and taking into consideration that I think that the science is established enough to say that you can only absorb a certain amount of protein per meal, let's say 50 grams in one sitting, I have to break my meals up into at least 4, possibly with a couple snacks in between. I'll eat a protein bar in between so that I can hit my protein goal. But that's why I focus on more meals, is so that I can get in more protein. But a study found in obesity found that total calories and macronutrient intake matter far more than meal timing. You see that? So what I'm just talking about, total calories and macronutrient intake, protein intake, matter a lot more than your meal timing, your 18-6 window, or your every 2-hour window. Very little effect on overall metabolism and body composition. Dr. Alan Aragon, who's a nutrition researcher, and I follow him on Instagram. Dr. Alan Aragon said this, quote, "The idea that eating every few hours, quote, stokes your metabolism is a myth. The thermic effect of food is proportional to meal size, not frequency." So we can pretty much put that one to bed. These final 2 myths are the ones I'm most passionate about, so I shouldn't have spent so much time on the others. But myth number 2 is that you can't build muscle after a certain age. That is a lie from hell. Do not believe it. If anyone ever tells you that you're too old to build muscle, understand you're dealing with someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. They're trying to sell you something, or they're trying to discourage you. There is a myth out there that after a certain age, muscle loss is inevitable and that there's no point in lifting weights. That is false. The truth is that older people can build a significant amount of muscle with proper training and nutrition. That there have been study after study. Dr. Lane Norton, someone who I highly respect in the industry, talks about a study, and I wish I should have prepared this particular study for your consumption. We'll talk about it in the future, but it's a study about geriatrics who are brought in and given an exercise program for 8 or 12 weeks, and some of them can't even squat down but a couple inches. So they squat down to a high chair, like a stool, and back up. And they do this for a period of time. At the end of this study, almost everybody was able to squat down to a low chair and squat back up. Many of them were able to squat without any kind of assistance whatsoever. So what does that tell you? They're gaining muscle. They're gaining strength. Don't believe it when someone says you can't build muscle after a certain age. A study in the Frontiers in Physiology found that even individuals in their 70s and 80s can gain muscle with strength training and proper nutrition. Additionally, the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research showed that protein intake of about, as I mentioned, 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight supports muscle growth in older people. So if you are older, you need to start a weight training program. I would recommend hiring a personal trainer so that you don't get injured and you can learn the proper techniques. And you need to focus on protein consumption. Stop worrying so much about all of the other macros, the carbs, and everything else, and really focus in on getting enough protein. Let everything else take care of itself. You have too much to worry about already. So focus on getting enough protein, focus on lifting weights, and I promise you, your health will improve. Strength training improves bone density. It improves your balance so that if you fall, you won't get hurt. Your bones will be stronger. You may not fall in the first place because your balance is better, and it improves your overall health. Please, if you are older than 50 years old and you've never lifted weights, the best thing you could do, the best gift you could give yourself, the best gift you can give your family, the best gift you can give your grandkids is get into a weight training program. Start lifting weights. It is absolutely something that everyone should do. Dr. Stuart Phillips, who's a professor of kinesiology at McMaster University, says this: muscle is a use it or lose it tissue, but you can gain it back at any age. Yes, you lose muscle quickly if you don't use it, but if you use it, you gain it back. Such good advice. Look at one example, Ernestine Shepherd. Ernestine Shepherd is a competitive bodybuilder in her 80s, and she didn't start lifting weights until she was in her 50s. She didn't lift weights as a younger person, but she started lifting in her 50s. She's now in her 80s, and she is a competitive bodybuilder. She's in better shape than most people half her age. Don't tell Ernestine Shepherd that it's too late to start lifting weights. There's a lot of examples out there of older people who are lifting weights, and they're killing it in the gym and in life. So that brings me to number one, the number one myth that needs to die in the fitness and nutrition industry, and it is lifting weights makes you bulky. Have you ever heard that before? The lifting weights make you bulky? I have heard it many times. I hear it all the time, especially, I'm not picking on you ladies, but I hear it from women. It's a myth, especially among women, that you should avoid weightlifting because you think it will make you look too big. I don't want to get too big. I just want to get toned. Let me tell you right now, 100% of you watching this, you're not going to get too big by lifting weights. The truth is, building significant amounts of muscle requires years, not months, not weeks, takes years of progressive overload, proper nutrition, and for men, high levels of testosterone. Women in particular lack the necessary hormones to develop extreme muscularity without intentional effort. You understand that? Listen, it makes me laugh whenever I hear someone say, well, I don't want to lift lift weights because I don't want to look too big. Do you know how many people, both men and women, have dedicated decades of their life to precisely making sure that their weight training is on point, to precisely making sure that their nutrition is on point, just so that they will look too big, just so that they can be accused of looking like they lift weights? You know, most people who lift weights for a lifetime don't even really look like they lift weights. That's how hard it is to pack on muscle. It is not easy. You will not accidentally get too bulky. Women, start lifting weights. I promise you, you're not going to start looking like the bodybuilder women up on stage. Every single professional woman bodybuilder in the Miss Olympia is on bucket loads of anabolic and androgynous performance-enhancing drugs. All of them. The reason they look the way they look is not because they picked up a dumbbell and all of a sudden they transformed into this massive woman. It is because they are injecting massive amounts of steroids, plus, you have to speak the truth. I have to speak the truth, because your average woman, if she were to inject massive amounts of steroids, would still not look like them women. It takes massive amounts of work, weight training, progressive overload, massive amounts of nutritional dedication, and then for years, and then the performance enhancing drugs on top of those things. Because again, you could take your average woman, inject her with everything that Miss Olympia has, and she will not look anywhere near that. Nothing. It takes nutrition, weight training, dedication, and the drugs to look that way. You're not going to do it by accident. A study in the Journal of Applied Physiology showed that resistance training leads to improved body composition, not excessive bulk. Okay, what does that mean? Women, do you want to look good in a bikini? Start weight training. Watch your nutrition and start weight training. We'll do an entire episode on this for the ladies. But you're not going to get excessively bulky. Your shoulders are going to start looking good. Your arms are going to start looking good. Your booty's going to start looking good. It's not going to turn you into a man. Understand that women produce about 20 times less testosterone than the average man. This makes bulking up exceptionally unlikely. Okay. Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, who is an exercise science researcher, says this: women don't have the hormonal profile to get bulky like men. Instead, lifting weights will help them to get lean and toned. You want to get toned? Lift heavy weights. You want to get toned? Focus on nutrition. You're not going to get bulky by accident. So those are my top 5. Well, we'll just say 5 of my top 20 myths within the fitness and nutritional industry that need to die. What are some of yours? Comment below on YouTube, comment in the Spotify comments. Let us know, what are some of the myths that you keep hearing that need to die? They just might make our next list of top 5 myths in the nutrition and fitness industry that need to die. I hope you've enjoyed this. I encourage you to share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Click the bell button for the algorithm. Help us continue to keep these videos coming your way each and every Monday. Looking forward to continuing this journey of health and fitness and longevity with you. I'm Carl Wimmer, reminding you to be good to yourself, be good to others, and as always, stay safe.